Welcome everyone, my name's Sylph, and this is my attempt to beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Brilliant Diamond with only Water-type Pokemon. If you're unfamiliar with hardcore Nuzlockes, they're basically hard, self-imposed challenges for the Pokemon games. The full rule set for this run is listed down below, but put simply, only the first Water-type encounter in each route or area can be caught. If a Pokemon faints, it must be permanently boxed. No items except held items in battle. Party Pokemon levels are limited to the next gym leader or Elite Four's ace. And finally, the battle mode must be put on set at all times. That's right, the Gen 4 remakes have finally arrived, and I'm excited to see what they're all about. The water type is known to be quite a great one, and the Sinnoh region has a ton of potential encounters for us and some new ways of getting those encounters too. With that being said, I've heard some crazy things about this game, including some of the later NPCs having fully competitive and EV trained Pokemon, so let's buckle in for this one. Just before we get into the run, I want to remind you guys to subscribe if you enjoy the videos here. I really want to make an effort to foster more fun and creative content in the Pokemon community, so make sure to take those 2 seconds to click the button and help with that goal. Often people will tell me they didn't realize they weren't subscribed or it didn't occur to them, but it does really help. Thanks guys, let's get into the run. Damn, Professor Rowan is looking spiffy in 3D. Now before we head out, I just want to confirm something real quick. Yup, just as I thought. For over a decade, fans have been going nuts about the player's mom, and all along I said, chill out man, it's just her apron guys. And bam, we now have it fully debunked in 3D. No more. You hear me? Oh, damn it Barry. You'd think after 14 years of this you'd learn to watch where you're going. In Barry's house we encounter his mom, and this is the face of someone who's had to deal with Barry his entire life. She legitimately looks dead inside. Anyway, moving on to Lake Verity, we get to steal a starter from the professor, and just like I did in 2007, I'm gonna pick Piplup. Now often we don't get to keep our starters if they don't have the correct type, but this time around it's fair game. Back in Twin Leaf Town, our mom gives us the running shoes and woo!
Come get some. I don't think you have any idea how fast I really am. I'm fast as boy.
In the lab, I decide to nickname our Piplup Thorondor, and Dawn says, I'm so glad that you're kind towards Pokemon. If you weren't, I'd have to... Oh, I just can't say it. 4 minutes into this game, and I'm already being threatened.
I'll kill you! Ah!
Checking Thorondor's nature, he ends up being impish, which raises his defense but lowers his special attack. Empoleon is a better special attacker, so that's pretty devastating. I head below Sandgem Town to this hidden beach, and I'm like, ooh, there's gotta be a great item down here.
Got him!
Before heading out on our journey, our mom says there's one last thing we're forgetting. Our beloved hat.
Oh, look at the top of his head!
On Route 202, Dawn gives us some Pokeballs, which means our run has officially begun. On this route, I decide to go for our next encounter, which is going to be a lovely Bidoof. Granted, it's only normal type at the moment, but it will evolve into a water type shortly, so we're gonna roll with it. I nickname her Rosie, and she ends up having a sassy nature plus special defense and minus speed. Kinda rough, and it also has the Unaware ability, which ignores stat changes on the opponent, but that could be really good or really bad depending on the situation. After EV training Rosie like crazy against Shinx for attack EVs, we arrive in the massive Jubilife City. Immediately, I make my way to the Poketch company, and the secretary says, we're actually a family-run company, so we're not very impressive. Alright, I'm sold. We also grab the Quick Claw to help with Rosie's low speed, and damn it Pachirisu, get out of the way! One cool little upgrade is that when you check the city signs, you get a panning glimpse of it, which is kind of a nice touch. Heading west from Jubilife, we can encounter a fisherman in the gate who's actually going to give us the key to our next encounter, an Old Rod. From here, we can continue to Route 218, which is mostly blocked off for us right now, but we can fish here in order to get none other than a Magikarp. You may laugh now, but because of the fact that these remakes have an experience share turned on from the get-go, we should be able to make this thing pretty powerful quite quickly. We catch it and nickname it Galadriel, and it ends up having an adamant nature, plus attack and minus special attack. Finally, we have been blessed by the nature gods. The girl on the boardwalk says, I asked my boyfriend to meet me here on Route 218, but he's nowhere to be seen. What are you talking about, baby? I'm right here. After that monstrous catch, that's bound to work, right? My character actually moved afterwards. Look at him, he's flexing. In the trainer school, I take on these two kids and their Abras had Charge Beam of all things. Goodness gracious! Thankfully we pulled through and got work up TMs for winning, which aren't bad, but it's not hidden power like they used to give you. Also, yes, you tend to get multiple TMs for each move now. We also get access to the Pokétch, which you can toggle on and off in the top right. On Route 203, we run into Barry, who challenges us to battle. He leads with a Starly, and I lead with Thorondor. Since we have Water Gun, his growls don't do anything to us, and we take it down in 3 attacks. His Turtwig comes out next though, and this thing is quite scary for us. What I end up doing is trying to make sure that he can't do too much damage on us by hitting him with Growl repeatedly, and he starts to spam Withdraw. With our attack lowered and his defense raised, it's actually better to use a resisted Water Gun here, which, as you can imagine, is a very slow process. After 4 minutes, we eventually wear him down, being brought below a third health along the way. With that, we arrive in Orberg City, the location of our first gym challenge. In one of the apartments, this girl is complaining that she doesn't understand the logic of her boyfriend nicknaming their Psyduck Yellow. So you know I had to hit her with the "because it's yellow" real quick. I got you, brother. You do you. In the Orberg Mines, I was battling against a Machop, and bam, it crits us, and we survived on literally 1 HP. Oh my god, I saw my life flash before my eyes there. That was close. After meeting Rourke, I decided to use an escape rope, and man, that animation in 3D makes it look like we're possessed or something. North of the city on Route 207, I grind like absolute crazy against Machops to give both Rosie and Galadriel attack EVs. And then I head over to Route 204, north of Jubilife, to train Thorondor against Badu, which I believe is the only reliable way to get special attack EVs early game. Now here's the key about Rourke. I have attempted his battle with just a Piplup in the past, and it has never worked out. His Cranidos is just way too powerful. So I was wondering how I was going to do this when all of a sudden an idea came to me. The Ravaged Path. The very front part of it is accessible to us, even though most of it is cut off by Rock Smash rocks. Here we have a 2% chance of finding a Psyduck. It took me forever to find, but eventually we catch one and nickname it Pippin. Pippin has a relaxed nature, plus defense and minus speed, which is meh. After training him up a bit, it's time for the Orberg Gym. This gym is a rock-type gym, which generally gives us an easier start, at least type-wise, as we blow through the trainers and their Geodudes. At level 12, Pippin learns Water Pulse, which should be a great help. After getting us to level 14 in the mines, it's time for the gym leader, Rourke. He leads with a Geodude, and I send out Thorondor first, who immediately outspeeds and one-hit KOs him with Water Gun. A great start. In comes Onix next, which outspeeds us but just goes for Stealth Rock, and then Water Gun hits him down to 1 HP due to his Sturdy ability. Then Rourke just uses a potion on it so we can take it out in another hit. His final Pokemon is the scary boy, Cranidos, with a whopping 125 attack stat, unevolved. He hits us with Headbutt down to half, and thankfully we don't flinch, so I hit him with Charm to lower his attack, which Piplup actually couldn't learn in the originals. Knowing we'd get KO'd to a high roll or a crit, here I switch in Pippin, and with our plus defense EVs from grinding against Geodudes, and Cranidos' lowered attack, we absolutely tank Headbutt, although we got flinched on the second one, which brought us below half, and I'm like, uh-oh. A crit or a flinch will end us, but thankfully he doesn't get either, and Water Pulse takes him out from there with a quarter health left. A surprisingly tough challenge for a Water-type team, but access to Psyduck and having a decent strategy made it possible. While battling some Team Galactic goons, Rosie levels up and learns 70 power Headbutt, quite a powerful same type attack bonus move so early in the game. While leaving Jubilife, Bebe? I'll never get her name right, gives us one of the cooler additions in these remakes, remote box access, as well as some stickers for our Pokeballs. I attached some smoke ones on Rosie's ball because, well, she's smoking hot. All the Bidoof want her. Up ahead, this kid says, "Are you raising different types of Pokemon? If you only have one type of Pokemon, you'll have a hard time against types it's weak to." Yep, I sure am. We then arrive in Floroma Town, which is looking quite pleasant, and here we can finally grab some Oran Berries, which should be helpful. In one of the houses, this girl also gives us some Pluck TMs, which I'm thinking will be very much needed soon. In the Berry House, we can actually trade berries for Pokeball stickers too, which is really cool. Ahead at the Valley Windworks, we can get our next encounter, which could be either a Buizel or a Shellos. And it ends up being a Shellos. I'm a bigger fan of the East Coast Shellos, but hey, still a great Pokemon to have and should help us a lot with typing once it evolves. We catch it and nickname it Gimli, and Gimli has a brave nature plus attack and minus speed, which is meh. While preparing for Team Galactic, Thorondor ends up evolving into a Prinplup whose bulk will hopefully help us out. Rosie also ends up evolving into a Bee-Barrel, which now gets the water type, so I feel comfortable using it in actual trainer battles now. Our next challenge is Commander Mars, who has taken over the Valley Windworks. As in the originals, her battles can be quite scary, but I have a bit of a plan. She leads with Zubat and I send in Rosie. Amazingly, our Quick Claw activates and we smash it down to the red with Headbutt, but then it uses U-turn into her fully evolved Purugly. In that case, the Quick Claw activation was actually a bad thing. Purugly uses Priority Fake Out immediately to make us flinch, which brings us to nearly half, and then she just uses Growl before Headbutt then does less than a quarter. Scratch then brings us quite low, and we bring it to half with another Headbutt, but her Oranberry activates. I'm forced to switch, so I go into Thorondor, who tanks Scratch quite well, and here I use Charm to lower its attack, and thanks to our Oranberry and a crit, we're able to take it down in 3 more Water Guns, being brought below half in the process, after which Zubat is an easy KO. Eterna Forest is our next objective, where we're joined by Cheryl for double battles. Our first major challenge comes in the form of a Pachirisu, which could destroy our entire team with electric moves, but thankfully focus firing on it and not getting paralyzed by Spark allowed us to emerge victorious. Now, I was feeling okay for the rest of the trainers, but little did I know that these Abras have Energy Ball now, which absolutely rocks Gimli down to just 6 HP, but switching into Rosie saved us thanks to a Quick Claw activation. Man, oh man, there are some surprising tricks in this game. We quickly arrive in Eterna City, the location of our next gym, but beforehand, the Underground Man helps us access, you guessed it, the Underground. Down here is a really cool new place full of a bunch of unique Pokemon, and weirdly enough, there are Gastrodon here already at levels before they even evolve. Had I known that, we could have caught one, but oh well. Gimli, that's gonna be you one day, little guy. Whoa, 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 okay, chill, let me run. I'm gonna leave for now, as there are some cool encounters we could get here later on. Oh god help me, don't end me already, Cynthia. Whew, okay, she left. It's time for the Eterna City Gym, which is a Grass-type gym, our worst nightmare. On the very first trainer, Pippin had a hell of a time, being brought down below half by a Roselia, even with super effective Confusion on our side, and with an Oranberry, but thankfully Rosie clutched it out with Headbutt. Dear lord. One of the trainers then gives us a hint about where the next trainer is by saying, "They're in the middle of 3 trees. Gee, thanks. So helpful. We also had a ridiculously close call, as I didn't know this Turtwig had Bullet Seed, but thank god it only hit 3 times, so we survived in the red. Man, oh man. Now, quite obviously, we have no hope against a trainer with a Roserade of all things, but luckily, our secret weapon has arrived as Galadriel evolves into a beastly Gyarados at level 20 and learns Waterfall. Not a useful move for this gym, of course, but still quite powerful. It's time for the Grass-type gym leader, Gardenia, who is a nightmare for us. She leads with a Cherubi, and I lead with Rosie. Headbutt just barely doesn't KO, and then she just used Safeguard, so another few Headbutts are able to take her out after she potions. She next sends out a Turtwig, and I'm really hoping we can flinch this thing with Headbutt, but we don't, and it gets the Reflect Up, exactly what I was hoping to avoid. I cannot have Roserade come out with increased defense, so I try and just stall this thing out by using Defense Curl since it has the physical Razor Leaf move. I only get 2 off before hitting it with Headbutt since Razor Leaf does have a high critical hit ratio, but it survives on just a sliver, doesn't flinch, and hits us down to just 11 HP before we can take it out on the next. Holy, that was close, but Reflect goes down thankfully. In comes the biggest challenge, Roserade. Now for my plan, I've realized something. We have no choice, since Grass Knot would do huge damage even on Gyarados due to its weight, so I have to let Rosie go. It's tough, I know, but I sincerely think this is the only way that we have a chance. Bidoofs around the world are mourning the loss of their queen. Rosie's sacrifice allows us to go into Thorondor freely, who I have a good plan for. Unfortunately, she goes for Stun Spore though, as I thought she'd Grass Knot. My plan was to get hit below half, have our Oranberry activate, and then use super effective Pluck to steal and use her Citrus Berry, but now we just steal it without getting the effects. And we're paralyzed. Uh-oh. I'm forced to switch, so in comes Galadriel, the only Pokemon not weak to grass, but we get rocked to below half with Grass Knot. Our Oranberry brings us just above though, so I'm desperately hoping we can survive another, and we do on just 2 HP so we can take it out with Bite. Oh man, that was too much. We made it through with 1 death, which honestly was the best I could hope for. Whew, 2 badges. While doing some grinding in the underground, I accidentally ran into a Buizel, which is technically our underground encounters, so I have to grab it. It ends up being level 28 crazily enough, 2 levels under the next level cap, but we catch it successfully and name it Eowyn. Eowyn has a jolly nature, plus speed and minus special attack, which is fantastic for us. In the Galactic building in Eterna, we face Jupiter, who's a fairly easy challenge since Gimli learned Ancient Power and could take out Zubat with it, before then mud-slapping Skuntank while below half and poisoned, and thankfully Skuntank doesn't have high crit ratio Night Slash in this game, so Gyarados can be switched in to destroy it with Waterfall. For our efforts, we get the bike, and dear lord, I'm not gonna lie, this looks like it's straight out of a Fisher-Price magazine. I mean, what is that? Hearthome City is our next destination, and honestly, since the gym leader here doesn't show up until later, the only really useful thing here is the Shell Bell item, which this girl gives us, and wait a minute. Barry challenges us to battle on our way out of here, although he's not yet a huge challenge, as Gimli walls Starly hard with Ancient Power, Grotle is taken care of by Galadriel now that she learned Crunch, and with Intimidate rendering Razorleaf quite weak, and Thorondor takes care of Weasel and Ponyta with half health remaining. Upon trying to enter into Amity Square, I realized they only take cute Pokemon in there, and I'm like, oh come on, this is discrimination, Galadriel is cute as a button! Fine, I'll just take her and walk outside the park. What is that? On Route 209, this kind gentleman gives us the Good Rod, which opens up our very next encounter here in the water, a Goldeen. We catch it and nickname it Arwen, and she has a careful nature, plus special defense and minus special attack, which isn't bad. Along the way to Solaceon, I employ a cool doubles strategy where Galadriel uses a water move to power up Gimli's special attack, thanks to its Storm Drain ability. Yep, totally planned and not accidental at all. A long stretch of routes later, and we arrive in Veilstone City, the location of our next gym. Some person with a giraffe ray gives us the metronome item, which could be pretty useful as it powers up moves that are used consecutively. In the department store, I pick up the usual TMs like Light Screen and Reflect, but because the game corner has been replaced with a clothing shop, it seems they've moved all the TMs to here as well, so I can pick up Ice Beam and Psychic. Not bad. The Veilstone gym is upon us, a fighting type gym which I'm actually a bit nervous about, although Pippin with Psychic and the Mind Plate attached from the Solaceon ruins is a beast and tanks through the trainers, and along the way Galadriel learns Rain Dance too. While grinding, Eowyn also evolves into a Float Soul, a very speedy threat, although due to the level cap, that's the only evolution we can get for now. The third gym leader is Maylene, who not only has heavy EVs on her Pokemon, but also has adamant natures and crazy competitive strategies too. Let's see how we fare. She leads with a Meditite as I send out Thorondor, and Pluck does about 2/3 before it goes for Light Screen with the Light Clay item to extend its duration. Sheesh. Drain Punch then brings us to half before another Pluck just barely does the job. Machoke comes out next with an Expert Belt attached, and Pluck does less than half before it slams us with Low Sweep to about 1/4. I'm forced to switch here, so I go into Eowyn. Here, I figured since she has a bunch of speed lowering moves, we at least have priority Aqua Jet, and this definitely paid off as the next Low Sweep would have outsped and KO'd us. Nice. Her final Pokemon is an Adamant Lucario with Drain Punch, Bulk Up, and crazy EVs, and a big Root item attached, and this is what I was saving a switch into Galadriel for the Intimidate. Worried she'll bulk up while getting recovery, I went for Rain Dance to raise our power, but she kept using Drain Punch, so eventually I could take it down in a few waterfalls thanks to our Citrus Berry restoring our health and her poorly timed Hyper Potion turn, although we were brought well below half at one point, even through Intimidate. A scary battle, but we managed it quite well. Along the way to Pastoria, we can pick up the Dig TM, and I make sure to avoid as many trainers as I can because the level cap for the next gym is actually the same as Maylene's at 30, which is why we had to go in a bit under-leveled. Along the waterfront, we run into the footprint expert of the universe who wants to check our Goldeen's footprints. After a long wait, he said, Goldeen doesn't leave any footprints. I'm gonna end it all. The Route 213 grass brings us our next encounter, a Wingull, which we catch and nickname Meneldor. It has a sassy nature, plus special defense and minus speed, and since we have a full team and a water flying Pokemon already, I'm gonna box it for now. Pastoria City is upon us, and ironically enough, the city itself is where we can find another encounter in the central lake using the Good Rod, a Remoraid, which I catch and nickname Gandalf. Gandalf has a naive nature, plus speed and minus special defense, which isn't bad. Now, we had a huge problem in that our main team was too high level to take on the gym trainers, many of which are mandatory. But now we can use these new encounters to train up so they can take them on instead. However, while facing an Onix with Arwen in a more than comfortable range to survive, the Onix survives with Sturdy and then uses Flail of all things to take Arwen down since it increases in power the lower the user's health. Oof. I was planning on showing everyone how underrated Sea King is, but I guess not. Welcome to the team, Gandalf. Shortly afterwards, Gimli ends up evolving into a Gastrodon right at the level cap, and I proceeded to train Gandalf up against Ghastlies in this really cool part of the underground for special attack EVs. And at level 25, he evolves into a beautiful Octillery. It's time for the Pastoria City Gym, and to avoid overleveling, I had to take on the entire thing with only Gandalf, but he actually managed pretty well. And at level 30, he learned Bullet Seed, which is amazing since I was going to use the TM on him anyway, and just in time for the gym leader. Wake is the 4th gym leader and a fellow water-type trainer. He leads with a Gyarados, and, well, we do too as we intimidate each other. Which, come to think of it, doesn't even make any sense. From here I switch into Gimli, who tanks Ice Fang after the Intimidate and responds with Ancient Power. I was hoping for the Omni boost, but we don't get it, and we get our defense dropped by Crunch. I know he's gonna potion though, so I use Recover while at low health. 2 crunches bring us to a 3rd again as 2 more Ancient Powers do the job, and we get the Omni boost at the end, but it's kinda too late now. He sends in Quagsire next, and thankfully we have a perfect answer in Gandalf's 4 times super effective Bullet Seed, as otherwise that thing would have walled us quite hard. His final Pokemon is Floatzel, but with little to no coverage against us, we're able to take it down at half health remaining with 2 Bullet Seeds, which were great since they also broke its Citrus Berry in the process while continuing the hits. Amazing. Following the gym, I hit up the Great Marsh for another encounter, which ends up being a Meryl, which thankfully after like 5 balls is successfully caught, as Great Marsh or Safari Zone encounters can be tough as we've seen in previous runs. I nickname her Toriel, and she has a calm nature which is minus attack and plus special defense. Brutal. I box it for now, and the same goes for our next encounter on Route 212, a Wooper, which I nickname Morwin, and who has a Rash plus special attack and minus special defense nature. Gimli already fulfills that water ground role, so hopefully we won't ever need that thing. On the way to Celestic Town, Pippin finally evolves into a Golduck, which should provide us with great bulk and power. Celestic Town is upon us, and we can get 2 crucial things here. The black glasses from this legend, and also 3 Surf TMs from Cynthia's grandma, who, thankfully, this multiverse version of her is also in love with us. Forget this whole Spider-Verse thing going on, we out here in the Grandma-verse. Our return to Hearthome brings us to the Ghost-type Hearthome Gym, and the trainers are managed quite effectively by Pippin with Psychic for the Ghastly line, and Gimli's Ancient Power handles the Drifloon line. Along the way, Galadriel learns the amazing Dragon Dance move, and we also have a new evolution as our starter Thorondor finally evolves into an Empoleon, my favorite fully evolved Sinnoh starter. So majestic and a great typing too, now being part Steel. Gym leader Fantina herself is always a struggle, but I'm feeling pretty solid about my strategy. She leads with a Drifblim as I send out Gandalf. She does have Strength Sap and Will-O-Wisp, so I led with a special attacker, and it works out well as we bring her to the red and freeze her with an Ice Beam, but she does land a massive double power Hex because we have a status before we take her down with another. In comes her Gengar next, and because I'm too low now, I switch into Pippin, but Sludge Bomb smashes him below half. I switch into Thorondor here, predicting another, and it works as we're immune, but then she hits us with Confuse Ray. Bubble Beam then does less than half, but we snap out of confusion to hit her hard with Aqua Jet to the red. Thanks to our Shell Bell, after her Hyper Potion we're able to keep Aqua Jetting her to the red, although we were getting weak due to confusion. Here I switch into Eowyn, who tanks a Shadow Claw before out-prioritizing it with Aqua Jet for the KO. Her final Pokemon is Miss Magius, and thankfully she doesn't have Thunderbolt, only Magical Leaf, so Gyarados' typing serves us well as we can tank its attacks and confusion to then return a Crunch for the win. If that thing had Thunderbolt, we would have probably been swept. Arriving in Canalave has us battle Barry again, and his team is definitely getting stronger, although Gandalf's type coverage is incredible, being able to take down Staravia with Ice Beam, being unaffected by Intimidate of course, Grottle with 2 Ice Beams as well, and then even Heracross with 2 Psychics being brought down below half in the process. Gimli is then able to handle Ponyta and Weasel with relative ease too. It's time for the 6th gym, a Steel-type gym, and our Water types absolutely devastate the trainers since most of them have part ground types like Steelix. Byron himself is an interesting challenge as he leads with a Bronzor. Normally we'd be quite walled by it, but they updated the types in this remake so Steel no longer resists Dark, meaning Crunch from Galadriel is super effective against it, KOing it in 2 hits, although it did get a Trick Room off ahead of time. His Steelix then comes out, so I switch into Gimli, which worked out well as it used Sandstorm, which doesn't affect us. Trick Room helps it though, as it outspeeds and hits us with Earthquake before our Water Pulse just barely doesn't KO, so I'm forced to switch back into Gyarados to intimidate it as he Hyper Potions. Trick Room now ends, and our Waterfall actually flinches it, so another takes him down. In comes his final Pokemon, Bastiodon, and it does have Thunderbolt, so I switch into Gimli, and the prediction works, so then I can use Recover and take it out in a few Water Pulses. A little more trouble than I thought he'd be, but we got our 6th badge. In the Canalave Library, a massive explosion occurs, and as we head outside, a sailor comes to tell us that there has been a massive explosion. Thanks, dude. We would have never known without your help. After Canalave, I had spent some time underground trying to get a heart scale, which eventually I found. We can use it in Pastoria for the move relearner, who I get to teach Aowen Ice Fang for some more coverage. Now that we have Surf, we can also surf on the Central Lake to get the Mystic Water item, and also above Jubilife to get the Sea Incense, both of which power up Water-type moves. With Hydro Pump, Pippin is able to slaughter Jupiter's Bronzor and Kadabra at Lake Valor, and also get the 4x super effective Psychic off on his Toxicroak. Poor guy. At Lake Verity, we have to face Mars, who is normally a huge threat here with a wickedly fast Purugly with Stab, High Crit Ratio, Slash, but Gimli walled it amazingly well, and now having Earth Power has some pretty good damage output too. On our way to Snow Point, we cross through Mount Coronet, and all I can say is thank God for this new HM system. You can just use your Pokétch for them instead of having to carry around 1 or 2 HM Pokemon. I remember this area being hell with Defog, Surf, Rock Smash, and Strength being used. Now we can get the Soft Sand to boost ground moves without having an aneurysm. Moving forward to the beautiful snow routes of Route 216 and 217, we were getting close to overleveling on a few Pokemon, and one trainer led with a Raichu, and I forgot that we didn't have Gimli with us. Oh no. 3 Pokemon, and all are weak to Electric and outsped, but amazingly his Raichu just went for Agility, followed by Light Screen. That was almost the end of the run, not gonna lie. Along the way we pick up the Icicle Plate to boost ice moves, and then arrive in Snow Point City. For some reason it appears they decided to teach the witch herself here in the remakes, and I can guess that her Haunter still holds an Everstone when traded. I can't imagine her redeeming herself. Her boyfriend then says, "I love how my girl has so much vivacity and charm." Oh, so you're a masochist in other words. It's time for the Ice-type Snow Point City Gym, and after half an hour of goofing around with this stupid puzzle, it's time for the gym leader herself, Candace, who happens to have 2 grass types, which is terrifying. However, I brought along a secret weapon. She leads with Snover, and I lead with Gandalf. Here's the key. I taught Gandalf Flamethrower, yes, it learns it via TM, and also got a Charcoal item from the Underground to boost it, which means it's a 4x super effective instant KO. Gotta love Gandalf's wizard-like coverage. In comes Sneasel next, and as part of my plan, I switch into Empoleon even though it has Dig, which it does use. Thorondor tanks it quite well though, and Steel Plate boosted Stab super effective Flash Cannon destroys it. Now this was the key. I had to bait in Medicham here with its fighting type. That way I can now switch into Galadriel for the Intimidate, as Pure Power Medicham with crazy EVs and the Expert Belt is a monster. Even though it has Rock Slide, I think I can get a Dragon Dance off, but Rock Slide actually misses, so now I get a chance to smash it with Waterfall. Whew. In comes the big threat of Abomasnow. Now this thing has Aurora Veil, which basically doubles its defense and special defense. However, the move only works in the hail, so now I can activate my plan by using Rain Dance. And she did indeed go for it. Incredible. I hit it with Crunch for about half, and then Blizzard still does massive damage down to just 11 HP, and we get frozen. Oh man. Thinking it would use Blizzard since it's a Gyarados out, and knowing Flamethrower would still do enough in the rain, I switch into Gandalf, but she goes for Giga Drain, which instantly KOs. Are you kidding me? I thought we'd still survive even if she did go for that for whatever reason, but apparently its 164 special attack EVs were too much. That is a rough loss. Now the problem is, it does have Earthquake, but I have no choice. I have to send out Thorondor, who just barely doesn't KO with Flash Cannon. It goes for Earthquake, but we survive on just 9 HP to take it out with another. Oh my god, what an insane battle. Don't tell the others, but Gandalf was probably my favorite Pokemon on our team, so that hurt a lot. To fill our empty spot, I decided to take Toriel the Marill out of the PC as I realized, hey, wait a minute, these are remakes. Azumarill will probably have the Fairy type for some coverage. In no time, she does indeed evolve into an Azumarill with the huge power ability, effectively doubling its attack, which is not too shabby. In the Veilstone Galactic HQ, we pick up the Skull TM, which is fantastic for Pokemon like Gimli. We also find some beds with a sign on the wall that says, "Ensure the bed is unoccupied before getting into it." What if I don't? Cyrus's battle in the HQ is handled amazingly well by Eowyn with the Icicle Blight boosted Ice Fang, and is one of the rare Pokemon that can outspeed things like Golbat and Sneasel. Pretty cool to see. After another easy battle with Jupiter, we free the legendary Lake Guardian trio, pretty cool to see in 3D, and after a long trek we eventually arrive at the top of Mount Coronet at the Spear Pillar, where Cyrus has summoned the almighty Dialga. Here, we're challenged to a double battle against Commander Mars and Jupiter, and this is often a very tough battle, especially since you have to work with Barry, who is, well, quite unreliable to say the least. It took me a while to theorycraft for this one, but eventually a plan came to mind. I put the Metronome item on Thorondor to increase consecutive move power and decided to spam Surf to hit both opposing Pokemon at the same time. And berries, but that doesn't really matter much as they're not our own. Since Empoleon's typing resists almost everything from Skuntank and Purugly, normally two huge threats, this works incredibly well and Thorondor sweeps through them entirely, getting more powerful as the battle goes on. Unreal. Also, sorry Barry. This did force out his Intimidate Staraptor earlier though, which was good for us. It's time for the final battle with Galactic leader Cyrus. He starts with a Honchkrow and I decide to lead with Thorondor. Surf followed by Flash Cannon takes him down as he just went for Defog for some reason. In comes Gyarados, the reason why I didn't lead with a physical attacker as we take the Intimidate. Here I switch in Gimli, who is a Gyarados' worst nightmare, being able to tank anything he throws at us and respond with ancient powers to wear him down, being able to recover whenever necessary. Weavile comes in next, normally a hugely difficult threat, and when it went for Dig, I switched into Galadriel, who's immune, and two Waterfalls got the job done with it only being able to hit us with Aerial Ace. His final Pokemon is Crobat, and why would you put a Quick Claw on the third fastest non-legendary Pokemon in the game? I am so confused, but eventually a switch into Pippin with Psychic ruined Cyrus's day. In fact, his entire life plans if we're honest. It's time to confront the legendary Dialga and destroy it with Gimli, but before that it seems he has an all-important message for us.
Go crazy! Ah, go stupid! Ah!
In no time we arrive in the gorgeous Sunny Shore City, the location of the final gym, an electric type gym. On the surface, that prospect seems terrifying, just like the grass gym, but in reality, well, the game developers seem not to have accounted for water and ground types, as they have no grass coverage. Granted, they definitely did have coverage for pure ground types. Gimli is able to absolutely sweep through his team with soft sand boosted earth power, especially after his Raichu accidentally activated our Storm Drain ability by using Surf. Yikes. His Ambipom did do a ton of damage to us with a fake out and double hit combination, and come to think of it, it would have taken us out with a crit, but ultimately we smashed through him and earned our 8th and final badge. After the gym, we meet Gym Leader Jasmine from the Johto region, very cool to see her in a 3D main series game, and she gives us Waterfall TMs which are going to be fantastic for Toriel the Azumarill. After the long journey through Victory Road, I actually had Thorondor as our walking Pokemon, and look at him, he's doing the Naruto run! Zoom! In the Pokemon League, we have one final battle with Barry, and looking at his team, I was like, dear lord, that is a full competitive team. Nothing was really working in my head, but I realized something. His lead, Staraptor, can't do anything against Galadriel, even though it can intimidate us, so let's try to Dragon Dance. This ends up being our saving grace as I get 2 off, then cancel his Staraptor's Sunny Day with our own Rain Dance, then Rain Boosted Waterfall his entire team, although his Staraptor did have a Focus Sash to be fair. In the end, we were brought to just under half, with his Snorlax getting a yawn on us only right before we took him out. After a ton of grinding, teaching new moves to our Pokemon like Dig on Eowyn, and getting any items or TMs we need, it's time for the Elite Four. Looking at their teams, I am terrified. EV trained, amazing movesets and items, so I spent a ton of time theory crafting for all of them in advance. Let's see how this goes. The first Elite Four member is Aaron, the Bug-type trainer. To give you an example, just look at his team. Jolly Heracross with Guts and a Flame Orb to double his already insane attack power, and Facade, which is double power when statused. Ridiculous. Eventually, I thought of a strategy though. He leads with Dustox and I lead with Thorondor. Skyplate boosted Drill Peck does 3/4 and then he uses Light Screen as I thought, so another takes him down. In comes Heracross next, which is exactly what I wanted to bait out as I knew Thorondor was bulky enough to tank a Brick Break, and we do with about 1/3, so 4 times super effective Drill Peck does the job. Whew. Beautifly is then a one-hit KO as well. Vespiquen is nothing but a minor nuisance as it is quite bulky but can't do too much damage on us since we resist it, so we take it out in a few attacks. His final Pokemon is Drapion, a perfect opportunity to switch into Galadriel with Intimidate as he just went for Earthquake. He hits us with a Cross Poison and gets a crit to below half before Waterfall also does more than half. I'm forced to switch now, so I go into Gimli and he crits us with Night Slash. I go into Pippin and he crits us again. What is happening? I have no other choice, so I go for it and he crits us again, but we survive on 1 HP and then miss Hydro Pump. I wanna cry. Finally, a switch into Toriel is able to do the job as he didn't get a crit there. That was wild. The second Elite Four member is Bertha, the Ground-type trainer, which seems easy on the face of it, but it required some planning for sure, and I taught Thorondor Grass Knot ahead of time. She leads with Quagsire, and Grass Knot is a 4-time super effective KO. Golem then comes out, and because of Sturdy, I switch into Galadriel to predict the Earthquake and get the Intimidate off, and then I switch into Gimli to predict Stone Edge, but she goes for Rock Polish. Huh. Earthquake hits us hard, and then my plan worked as Scald got the burn and took it down before it could hit us again. Amazing. Sudowoodo was then a one-hit KO with Earth Power, Whiscash was a switch into Galadriel for the Intimidate and Bulldoze prediction, followed by a Dragon Dance setup and a few Waterfalls to take both it and Hippowdon down, which I knew would be a tough KO otherwise. The third Elite Four member is Flint, the Fire Trainer, who seems easy on the face of it, but in reality his team isn't all that much fire now, is it? He leads with Rapidash, and I send out Galadriel to wall it. He went for Hypnosis but missed, and then I hit the Rain Dance. He then uses Hypnosis again, and it hits this time. Good. All part of my plan, as I know he's now not going to use it again, so I switch into Eowyn, who has double speed and power in the rain, and takes out Rapidash after being hit by a Poison Jab. Now, I was really hoping he'd send out Drifblim here, but he sends in Steelix instead. Even given our boosts, he'd survive a Waterfall, and he has Sheer Force and Life Orb boosted Thunderfang. I switch into Gimli to predict it, and then Scald brings him to Sturdy, but also gets the burn, so after a crunch he goes down. In comes Lopunny next, so I switch back in Galadriel, who's asleep, but the Intimidate combined with him missing High Jump Kick allowed us to get the Rain Dance off again, after which I switched back into Eowyn. Also, my switch ended up overheating majorly at this time, so apologies for whatever Flint's room has become. Eowyn outspeeds and smashes Lopunny with Waterfall, and then in comes Drifblim. Now this is what I was scared of all along with Will-O-Wisp, Strength Sap, Minimize, and Baton Pass, but I taught Eowyn Taunt, which means Drifblim can't use a single move of his since they're all non-attacking moves, so Waterfall and Struggle do it in. His final Pokemon is Infernape, which we outspeed and smash with 2 Waterfalls after Focus Sash for the win. Solid. The last Elite Four member is Lucian, the Psychic-type trainer. He says, you timed your arrival well. I've just finished reading a book, you see. But now we can call his bluff in 3D. He's only halfway through the book. I can see it. Caught in 4K. Or at least in 1080p. His team is quite concerning for us as Mr. Mime is tough type-wise and has Light Screen and Reflect, and a few of his Pokemon have electric moves too. Against his Mr. Mime, I send out Thorondor, and Flash Cannon is super effective since it's a fairy type in this game, but he outspeeds and gets Light Screen up before we hit him. Thankfully, we do resist his attacking moves, so a few more do the trick as we stall out the screens a bit. In comes Medicham next, and I know he'll go for High Jump Kick here, so I switch in Galadriel for the Intimidate. He misses his attack and gets Recoil, and then I switch into Gimli for the Thunder Punch, then he misses again to take himself out. Alrighty then. Alakazam comes out next, and Earth Power does surprisingly little as he then uses Nasty Plot, but we land a crit on our next one to KO him. Giraffere comes out next and sets up Light Screen, then hits us hard with Psychic, so I'm forced to switch into Galadriel. He does have Thunderbolt, but thankfully we outspeed and can take him down with super effective Crunch. Bronzong is his final Pokemon, and thanks to the typing update we can KO him in a couple crunches. Hey, at least that crazy background suits Lucian's whole psychedelic theme going on. After using our 3 remaining rare candies, it's time for the final battle, the champion, Cynthia. Amazingly, this time we actually have a way to deal with Spiritomb. Every other time we faced it, nothing is super effective against it, but now we have the Fairy type. Toriel just barely doesn't KO it with Play Rough though, and then it hits us with Shadow Ball for less than half. I go for Play Rough again, but we miss and she hits us into the red. I'm like, alright, surely we won't miss a 90% accuracy move twice in a row, and if she switches, Waterfall would be stupid. But we miss it again, and she KOs us. Oh no, my entire plan is immediately thrown off. I decide to send in Galadriel to finish it off with Waterfall, and then she sends in Gastrodon. As funny as it may seem, our best option here is Gimli, and then we have a Gastrodon off, as ours emerges victorious in the end thanks to Recover, being left with just 41 HP. This also baits out the Roserade, which I wanted for a particular reason. I switch in Galadriel, we tank Energy Ball with above half only thanks to our Citrus Berry, she hits us with Sludge Bomb, we survive, and I taunt Gyarados Avalanche, which doubles in power if we're hit first, and it pulverizes Roserade. But in comes Milotic. Now unfortunately Gimli is weak and couldn't learn Toxic anyway, so I switch in Thorondor. We begin to overwhelm her with Grass Knot combined with her Flame Orb burn, which doubles its defense due to its Marvel Scale ability by the way, but then she actively switches from Milotic into Lucario. Oh no, I was not expecting that, this is not good. Her Lucario is a special variant and there's nothing I can switch in, so I realize my best plan and just go for Surf, but we don't even survive one Aura Sphere and get taken down. Oh man. From here, I send in Pippin, who tanks an Aura Sphere, then go for Psychic even though it's not super effective, I just needed some damage and Hydro Pump could have missed, then we get taken down by another. Here, I can send in Eowyn though, who can outspeed and use super effective Dig to take it down thanks to the damage from Pippin. Here she sends in Milotic again, and predicting Scald, I switch in Gimli, who gets the Storm Drain, but Ice Beam does just enough to KO from this range. With Galadriel out, she then uses Recover, and at this moment, I realized our fate, as Galadriel then goes down to Ice Beam, and as hard as I tried with Eowyn, there was just no way with Recover, as we got taken down after a 5-minute long battle. Man, those two misses with Azumarill and the hard switch from Milotic did us in, as I was gonna manage Garchomp with Azumarill and Floatzel's Ice Fang outspeed. Wow, what a game this is with those competitive sets. Quite the challenge, but hey, for an essentially blind run, this was quite an attempt and we made it to the champion. I don't think I've done quite as much theory crafting and competitive preparation for each match beforehand, but it was quite fun indeed, and I hope you found it fun too. If you enjoyed the run, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button as it really helps a lot and grows our community. A huge thanks to my YouTube members and patrons who make these videos possible. If you'd like to support and get your name up here, the links are also down below. If you enjoyed, drop a like down below to help the video out and leave a comment letting me know what kind of run we should do next, and I'll see you guys for our next challenge video.